Ladies and gentlemen, inductee Walter Raymond Dirty Wedgeworth. Walter Raymond Dirty Wedgeworth was a member of the first Marshall County High School football team to beat Albertville. The 1927 team was undefeated, including the 6-0 victory over the previously unbeaten Aggies. On the front row, left to right, I.B. High Pockets Wood was always involved with sports in the Guntersville community, youth football, the Booster Club, and when there was a drive for the new concrete stands at the stadium, High Pockets served on the committee. Buddy Wood, his son, was an all-star on the unbeaten 55 Wildcats. Second is John H. Walls. Third is our inductee, Raymond Wedgeworth. Fourth is Nevada Whitten. Years later, he would operate an auto parts business in Albertville, and Mr. Whitten was like a father to another of our Hall of Fame inductees tonight. He gave Abby Abercrombie his first job in 1944, and we all know the success of Marion Abercrombie's auto parts business. Fifth is Grady Huckabee, the brother to Welch. Welch was a star lineman in the early 30s, and their father was a Guntersville doctor. Sixth, R.B. Norrell holding the football with 6-0 on it, the score of the Guntersville-Albertville game 1927. R.B. later helped coach the Wildcats and ran a restaurant in Southtown. Seventh, Watson Hooper, who later would become Guntersville's first full-time executive director of the Housing Authority. Eighth, Washington Bennett. Washington was deputy sheriff to Sheriff Zeke Boyles. Both were killed in the line of duty. Ninth, Mac Moss. He would serve several years as the Marshall County tax collector. Mac was involved in the biggest play in Wildcat football history. He caught the pass for the only points in that 6-0 victory over Albertville. And on the far right of the first row is Joe Creel. Creel became an attorney, and most of his practice in life was spent down in Florida. Moving to the second row, left to right, first is Sam Moore. Sam was a paint contractor in Newport, Kentucky. Second is Robert Mason, who would become a cotton ginner at Union Grove. Third, Levert Williams. Fourth, Asher Ayers, later would be a farmer and a NASA employee. Fifth is Sam Means, the little curly-haired guy in the middle. Sam was the quarterback that tossed the pass to Mac Moss for the winning points over Albertville and finished the season unbeaten. Means to Moss was a cry or a yell that was heard for several years following that victory. Sixth is Johnny Seegers. Later, he ran a meat market and was a big-time Guntersville Lake fisherman. Seventh, Fred Roberts. Eighth, Lafayette Miller. Ninth is Herschel Beard, the first of 5 outstanding Beard brothers that would play for the Wildcats. Herschel would become a cotton ginner in the Martling community. His sons, both attorneys in Guntersville, Randy and Will, would later play for the Wildcats. At the far right, George Adams. Later, he would practice medicine, serving as a doctor in the Huntsville and Decatur areas. Standing left to right, K.L. Rogers, Coach John H. Meeks, and Ray Barnard. Coach Meeks, following the 27th season, he left Guntersville, but he returned in 1932, staying for 4 more years. He coached 2 unbeaten, untied teams, 1927 and the Buddy Beard Finest St. John team of 1933. His overall Wildcat record, 29-11-4. Nell Moss, the wife of Mac Moss, Mac, of course, played on that 1927 team. She tells how Raymond got his nickname, Dirty.
He kept her house, her bathtub filled with worms and crickets and everything else that he fished with. If he had a box of worms he wasn't ready to use, he'd put them under the sink and maybe she wouldn't find them for a week later.
I can imagine.
And that's the way I understand he got his name Dirty.
So it was Mama that first called him Dirty.
It's Mama that first called him Dirty.
Okay.
His mother also had another nickname she used some, and that was Rooster. Nell Moss said that Coach Sauls may have another version of Dirty. This Tom Sawyer of the Tennessee River went to Southern Military Academy at Greensboro and played center there until Birmingham Southern's coach persuaded him to come there. Wedgeworth was inducted into the Birmingham Southern Sports Hall of Fame in 1997. In his induction presentation, it was noted, if Wedgeworth had played in today's modern-day football, he would be billed as an Iron Man. Now, this is his famous picture from Birmingham Southern. This is in the era before the face mask. so this is a homemade job they had for the Wedge. In 1934, Wedgeworth led Birmingham Southern to an unprecedented level of success, an undefeated 9-0 season. He was a leader on one of the most feared lines in the South. He played a critical role in each of the victories despite a broken ankle, broken finger, 2 cracked ribs, and a broken nose. Wedgeworth made the most important play and perhaps the biggest win in Birmingham Southern history. His second quarter fumble recovery against Auburn led to the only score of the game, and the Panthers upset the mighty Plainsmen 7-0. He finished his football playing, then went to Jacksonville and received his degree. There was a short tenure as Birmingham Southern freshman coach. Football was disbanded at Birmingham Southern College prior to World War II. The school has never reinstated the sport. Coach Wedgeworth would be an assistant coach at Guntersville before heading out as a head coach at Scottsboro and Dadeville, and there were coaching stops at Geneva, Notasulga, Huntsville, and Gadsden. From the October 30th, 1941 Advertiser Gleam in Guntersville, Dirty was the head coach at Dadeville, and the story goes that Dirty scouted the Wildcats in their game with Huntsville and said that Marshall had a good team, but not as good as Dadeville's. I hate to spoil an undefeated season for my own hometown, but we're going to take Marshall like a catfish takes a dough ball. Scottsboro, where Dirty had coached the year before, was so interested in seeing his Dadeville team play Marshall that it changed their game with Boaz from Friday to Thursday night. Guntersville went into the Friday night game 6-0, having scored 145 points against only 7. Dadeville won 6-2. The following appeared in the November 13, 1941 Advertiser Gleam. Guntersville team, best we have played. To the Gleam. I've been asked by the football team, the school officials, and citizens of Dadeville to make public our appreciations for the splendid time and favors shown us during our enjoyable trip to Guntersville. As stated to me by my team, Guntersville is by far the best and the cleanest team we've faced yet, and we have faced some tough ones. Very few teams can be as good losers as winners, but the Guntersville boys are certainly an exception. We all admit that we were very lucky to win, but that goes along with football. We express our appreciation to the citizens of Guntersville for their untiring efforts, and we're looking forward to playing Guntersville next year. Sincerely, Coach Ray Wedgeworth. They didn't get to play the next year because World War II was underway. Here they are, the Guntersville City Champs in fast pitch softball from the 1940s. On the back row, left to right, standing, J.P. Roden. Second is Dirty Wedgeworth. Third, Joe Morton. Fourth, Dr. A.G. Long. Fifth, Dr. Max Baines. Sixth, Farmer Jones. Seventh, Charles Abels. And on the right end, Farrell Sparks. On the front row, left to right, kneeling, Howard McGehee. Second is Ray Brown. Third, Bill Brazier. Fourth, manager Bill Harris. Fifth, Arthur Porter. And on the end, umpire Barbara Jones. One player was not pictured, Marshall County and Jacksonville State Hall of Famer Blackie Heath. In 1947, he became the defensive coordinator at Jacksonville State University. The team went undefeated, including a 7-0 victory over Florida State, and led the nation in defense. Labeled a defensive genius by the head coach Don Salz, Coach Wedgeworth coached his defense to the 1947 record for the fewest points allowed per game at 4.2 and fewest yards per game rushing at 56. Both are still on the record book at Jacksonville State. The 1948 team lost only one game. 4 Gamecock teams won bowl games in 1948, 49, 50, and 55. The 55 Gamecocks shut out its first 6 opponents and beat Rhode Island 12-10 in the Refrigerator Bowl. Wedgeworth served as head coach in 1953, while Coach Don Salz took a year off to pursue his doctorate. Coach Wedgeworth was one of few collegiate coaches to head coach 3 major sports at one school. As head basketball coach at JSU, his team was 17-7 in 1951-52 and 15-7 in 1952-53. The highlight of his basketball career was beating the University of Alabama's famed Rocket 8 67-63 in 1953. As head baseball coach 1964 through 1969, his teams competed every year for the Alabama Collegiate Conference Championship. His career record was 65-50. Jacksonville State gave Coach the full life in his career and in his family. In 1958, he married Eleanor, a young mother with 3 children. The next 17 years, he had a very supportive family and, according to Eleanor, a good life together. She said, "You would never hear him brag about anything. He was not a glib talker, just plain old dirty. We all just called him Wedgeworth or Wedge. He was not a gossiper. He didn't put people down." In a separate interview with Nell Moss of Guntersville, her comments were that Dirty insisted that her late husband, Mac Moss, come stand with him at his induction into the Jacksonville State Hall of Fame. Dirty was not one for a lot of show. What he did it very quietly. Ms. Eleanor said he never lost that love of hunting and fishing. He would hunt deer at Sunflower, Alabama. He raised quail and he gave most of them away. He raised chickens and gave the eggs to the players. The name Wedgeworth, one of the first attached to a ballpark in the Guntersville Recreation Parks. In 1974, a year before losing a battle with cancer, Raymond Wedgeworth became the first inductee into the Jacksonville State Hall of Fame. When Coach was laid to rest in 1975, one of the pallbearers was Mac Moss, a lifelong friend and a teammate from the 1927 unbeaten MCHS Wildcat team. Ladies and gentlemen, inductee Raymond Dirty Wedgeworth.